Like, bro, I jumped out of planes. I've been through war. Like, this was like next level, bro. I'm like, I'm gonna know if I win or lose 40K. I'm either gonna lose 40K or I'm gonna win 6K. I'm about to know in the next, like, minute. And then he gets to 10 seconds. The floor person gets 10. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Today we got a bit of a spicy heads-up superstar of sorts. He's been brawling in the streets, and not just the online streets, it turns out. He's been brawling in the streets of Afghanistan, too. I thought this would be a crazy story about how he went to hardcore military training and had to protect VIPs and all this kind of stuff. Apparently crushed high-stakes heads-up for quite some time and has been... is going to tell us a bit about the state of the games. What's up, Cole? Got a bit of a reputation, it seems.
Thank you for having me, Jungle. It's good to finally meet you, man.
Anyway, I thought we could start with the story of how you got into poker and how you made a living in Afghanistan playing the micros.
Oh yeah.
Did I get that right?
Good. Yeah, no, that's absolutely correct. My first, I guess my first exposure to poker was when I was like 18, 19, when I was like watching poker vlogs and whatever, but like I wasn't like legally allowed to play it really. But once I eventually got into the army. Like I got into the army right after high school, and then went through OSIT, went through airborne, failed RASP, went to the 82nd because I passed airborne school, so I was a paratrooper. And then I deployed.
Can you tell us what that means? I don't really know what RASP is, to be honest. I don't think a lot of people know what RASP is. I don't know what RASP is.
So have you heard of the Army Rangers? Schools. Have you heard of the Army Rangers?
Yeah. I have heard of the Rangers. What are they like? Jump out of airplanes or like things like that? They protect VIPs and.
Yeah. I was not an airborne ranger, but I really wanted to be an airborne ranger. Airborne school was cool. You get to jump out of planes. You do five total jumps. Yeah, scary, dude. It's dope, man. You get like so many cool opportunities. Like I got so many cool opportunities and experiences that I never would have gotten on the outside of the military. Like, dude, I jumped out of 2 Chinooks, bro. 2 helicopters, bro.
Really?
Isn't that so cool? Like, dude,
yeah.
I literally jumped out of helicopters, bro. 13 planes and 2 helicopters. So I had 15 jumps.
I know it. Cool. I do know what Chinook is.
It's jumping is fun, and part of the reason why I wanted to be a paratrooper was, and this is like a reason why I do a lot of stuff. It's like I was kind of scared of heights. I was kind of scared of like jumping out of a plane. And so I'm like, man, am I just going to be afraid of this forever? Or am I going to undergo self-administered behavioral therapy and just jump out of a plane a bunch of times until I'm not scared of it anymore? And so I jumped out of a plane a bunch of times. Now I'm not scared of jumping out of planes anymore.
Okay, so you can get over that one. That's cool. So it's kind of how you get over the fear in poker of higher stakes. You just keep doing it, and you keep playing higher stakes. Or you jump out of airplanes and be like, oh, I guess this isn't nearly as scary. Playing high stakes isn't nearly as scary as jumping out of airplanes. This is what I would guess. I would guess it would carry over a little bit, but I'm not sure. So how did poker get involved in this? I want to hear more stories too, but let's talk about how poker got involved in the army. What, and you won a lot of money, right? Or relatively?
Rumor on the street is I win a lot of money, relatively, of course. So in the army, I actually picked up poker in the army. My unit ended up deploying. Shout out to all the 2505 boys, 2P, 3rd BCT. We had a little cigar shack on one of the FOBs in Afghanistan, one of the forward operating bases in Afghanistan. A classified location out in Afghanistan. Yeah, a little cigar shack.
A private game?
Yeah, a little private game. It was me and the American contractors who are obviously compensated very well for their time. You know, they're overseas, they're in a dangerous situation, so they get paid like, well into the 6 figures. Me as a specialist, I was a specialist back then, which is an army rank. It's not a job title. So I was an E4, so I was getting paid like between like 25 and 30K a year at the time. The game that we were playing was like 5 cent, 10 cent, $10 buy-in, and I was mopping these guys up, man. And I hadn't like studied at that point either. I was sort of just like getting a feel for the games, and I ended up making like 17 or 1800 in like a month and a half playing, and like 5 cent, 10 cent, which was like, that was big money for me back then, bro. Month and a half, like almost $2,000 profit. I was like, let's go. I'm the greatest.
200 buy-ins. It's pretty good.
Yeah, yeah, right. Yeah, like
poker too.
Yeah, exactly. So the hands aren't even coming that fast. It was yeah, I mean we would occasionally play reasonably deep, but yeah, dude, I was mopping up. And then I found online poker. And I immediately lost quite a bit on ACR, probably. So I made like 1,700, and I'm like, oh, I'm a great poker player. This is and I did naturally have like an aptitude for the game, so it wasn't all like delusion. But I went to ACR like 25 cent, 50 cent, like 50 cent a dollar, like not micros, just like small stakes. I didn't like dump money, but I was a losing player. Most of my strategy had come from like Doug Polk vids at this point, so you know, it was like very, very surface level, very rudimentary. I didn't pick up a solver until probably like a year and a half into my poker playing, and then I finally got Pio. But yeah, so yeah, we had like a little cigar shack game, made a bunch of money, had a great time with the boys. When I left, the Spansoft guys, they gave me like their patch, and now I wear it on like my backpack at college. Dude, it feels so cool, bro. I'm at college right now, so. Well, not right now. I'm a freshman. I just got out summer break, but yeah, living the good life,
really?
man. Yeah, I'm up at Penn State main campus.
So what ended up happening with the? Did you like keep staying? Did you stay in the military and just keep playing online poker, or like how did this? How did you get more and more involved in that? Was there just a break in between? How does that work?
The plan was, when I get out, I'm just going to play a little poker on the side. You know, I was still playing online, sort of recreationally. I wanted to win money so bad, but I just wasn't good. So, like, the plan was get out, get, like, an ENMS cert or something, and then go back over as a private contractor. Because a lot of the private contractor jobs pay really well, and you can only get them if you have combat experience. And given I had my CIB, given I had a combat deployment, I was now qualified. I was part of like a very small pool that was qualified to do some of this contracting work. And then I made like 30K my first month, just like on a crypto site. I doubled my bankroll, bro. I had like 30K when I got out of the army. And I like doubled my bankroll in the first month. I ran super hot on my first month. And then I'm just like, you know what? New plan. We're not going to do any contracting. We're not going overseas. Just stay right here, make all the money. So that was sort of how I became a professional poker player.
Oh, okay. Well, I want to hear more about how you rose in stakes, and it's a very colorful story to get into poker from army to poker.
First month went great, and then the next month I did my first heads-up challenge. I did 2. So the first one was like not publicized at all. It was just me and a dude online, you know. And I was cooking at first, but then I eventually fumbled the bag at the very end. It was also like kind of interesting because it had like escalating blinds. So like the first 10K hands were played at like 500 NL, and then the next like 4,000 hands were played at like 1K, and then the last 1K hands were played at 2K NL, which is like big stakes for me back then. Yeah, right. It's a cool idea.
That's like pretty. Yeah, I've never heard of this kind of heads-up challenge where you keep moving up in stakes.
Yeah, it was a very low-key challenge, though. It was on a little crypto site that is now defunct, called blockchain.poker. I don't know if you've ever heard of it.
No.
It was it was a very cool site. You would play in crypto. I think Seals with Clubs is kind of similar. And I went on like a huge upswing after that. So I lost the heads-up challenge, unfortunately. But then I started going on a huge upswing. and I was playing a lot of live poker. So I was playing on like this crypto site where I was making some money, but I was playing a lot of live poker in the Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Parks Casino, Borgata area.
I heard this stuff was quite good, actually. I heard that the online games in New Jersey and all that were very good to play in if you happen to be located in those areas.
Yeah. I mean, American poker is like pretty S tier. I've played on ACR a little bit. I've played on Global. Global is also very good. Like Global Poker is very good. All the PA sites are good. All like the American sites in general are good.
Okay, so it seems like you rose in stakes really quickly.
Yeah,
what kind of time frame? What kind of time frame are you looking at to go from $50, like $100 buy-in to $2K, $5K NL?
So I started in the once I got out of the army, I had and part of my bankroll was built from poker. I started winning I guess at some point maybe a year after I started playing. I started winning online on mostly the soft crypto sites. And so I did eventually become a winning player and start building my bankroll. But once I got out of the army, I had 30K and I doubled it in my first month. And then I started. I was using a 100 buy-in shot take or 100 buy-in bankroll management strategy. So once I had 100K, I would start playing 1K NL.
Okay,
but
so I thought you were a bit more aggressive than that, but okay. All right,
yeah.
So how long did it take?
So that was my online BRM strategy. But live, it was, I think the strategy I used was 5,000 big blinds. Because I played in a lot of uncapped games, so it didn't make as much sense to use buy-ins. So I was 5,000 big blinds for a certain stake, and I'd move up and play it.
So 50 buy-ins, roughly.
Yeah.
That's pretty
exactly.
conservative, I'd say. I don't even think you need that much, to be honest.
If you have a big edge.
The stakes are quite small.
I don't know if I had such a big edge. I started absolutely destroying the live games. I was winning at 20 big blinds per hour for 3 or 4 months straight of playing full time. But it's not that many hands, It's
right.
I was crushing, but the sample size is super insignificant in terms of
you can certainly run hot in a few 4 months for sure.
And boy did I!
Bad.
And boy did I run hot. I made 100K in my first 6 months or 150K
really?
In my first 6 months. Yeah.
In 2020.
It was insane. 2021. So
I
got out of the army.
Still very good.
Yeah. I was not really playing much online at all at this point. It was all live.
Okay, that's still very, very good, dude. That's that's something other people would really like to emulate. And what was this in Borgata or where the was this?
Yeah, Borgata, Parks, a little bit at Mount Airy Casino, a smaller casino. That was my first live session. I'll never forget.
I didn't even know about those. So is it? Would you say these games are exceptionally good, or are they just a lot better than? I don't know how recent the information was, but did you say they're a lot better than American sites?
Yeah, they are. They were very good when I played them. I don't play live too much anymore. I did just play at Parks the other night, but the sites or the live casino scene back then, it was very soft. But I was also running exceptionally well. And then one fateful day, I decided, all right, it's time to move up to 2550. And I sat at a 2550 game and lost $30,000. And I'm oh no, yeah. And
it's a rite of passage,
dude. It totally is, bro. Totally is. You gotta take your licks. So I lose 30K, and then I have a bunch of money in crypto because I'm playing on the crypto sites, and crypto crashes, and then I go on to lose 30 more K in poker. So I lose 100K. I go from having a bunch of money to significantly less money. I lose over half my bankroll in a month and a half, and I'm oh no. Maybe I'm not God's gift to poker. Maybe I'm not as good as I thought I was. And then I build it back little by little, and then I go on my first trip to Vegas. And my first trip to Vegas was lit, fam. It was next level, man. I ran the biggest bluff of my life. It was an insane hand. I can tell you the hand. It was pretty gnarly, bro.
What's the hand? You have to tell us the hand.
All right. So I get to Bellagio. It's 20-40-40, and I sit down there, and I got the I just bring my entire whatever I brought to Vegas. I brought like 40K to Vegas, which is like probably a third of my bankroll at that point. So I sit down at the table with like 40 G's, and everyone's like looking at me like, bro, you like way more than cover everyone. What is the point of having like 40K in front of you? I'm like, I'm a gangster. I'm here to play. And yeah, so like I like way covered everyone until a younger Asian gentleman sits down in the 5 seat, and he has like 60K. And I'm like, oh, we're in play, okay. And I like nudge the guy next to me. I'm like, yo, bro, would you give me like a free roll? Like if I get all in with him, just like give me like $100. He's like, nah, man, I'm not doing that. And he's like, I'm like, come on, man, just do like $20. He's like, fine. If you get all in with that dude, I'll give you $20. I'm like, all right.
I've given free rolls so if people would bluff off their whole stack when they're that deep. No one ever does.
Really?
It's very rare. Like,
oh boy, do I have the story for you? Do I have the story for you, bro?
Well, finally, you found the guy.
Yeah, I'm the guy. Okay. So I got this free roll going, extra juice in the pot, and then it folds to me on the button. I look at the queen 10 of spades. I'm like, all right, pretty solid. I raise to $120. Small blind calls, big blind calls, which means 400 in the pot. So we go to a flop of. In fact, I have this on my phone. I'm gonna make sure I'm like getting the hand exactly right because I have it saved on my phone.
I'm really curious how you managed to get all the money in.
Bro, it's gnarly, bro. This is September 2021. So the flop was King of Clubs, Jack of Diamonds, 6 of Spades, and checks to me. I bet $100 into $400. Small blind folds, big blind calls, 600 in the pot. He check raises the flop to $460. So pretty small check raise, right?
Yeah.
I bet $100 into 400. He raises to 460. I decided to make the call. Go to a turn of the 8 of Spades. So now I have the flush draw as well. So we need an ace, 9, or spade on the river, baby. And this is when he block bets the turn. He bets $450 into around like $1,300.
Wait, what's the turn?
The 8 of Spades. So it's King of Clubs, Jack of Diamonds, 6 of Spades, 8 of Spades. And he block bets $450 into a pot of like $1,300 or something. And that's pretty small.
You can't let that fly.
Great minds think alike. I just bomb it on the raise. I'm like, this guy's block betting. There's no way he's got it, bro. No way. So I make it like 2,500 to go, which is like I could have made it bigger, but like So I make it like 2,500 to go, which is like 2x the size of the pot, almost. Not quite 2x, but like it's pretty big. And he makes the call, so I'm concerned now. I'm concerned. We're hoping for a spade, an ace, or a 9. Like, please. And the river is the 7 of hearts, and it hurts my soul. And there's like 6,500 in the pot, or something like that. And he checks it over to me. And I'm thinking it over. I'm like, do I bluff this? What kind of sizing do I want to use? I'm like $3,700 deep. I got this guy who's going to pay me $20 if I go all in. Like, And, I mean, look, he can't really have the nuts. He can't really have 10-9. It was a gutter on the flop. He would have had to call the turn with essentially an open-ender, but it's only to the nuts on one side. And if the river checks through, you like always lose with your 10 high. So it's like, he basically never has the nuts here. And I have the 10 of spades, which blocks 10-9 of spades, which he could reasonably
How can he have it? How can he have it?
How can he have the nuts? So I like think about it for a little while, and I'm like, I'm all in. And I like push in the chips. And the dude like gets up, he's like, oh man, oh my gosh. Are you serious? Are you serious? It was like, and the dealer is like sort of looking at me like, bro, you just bet like 40 G's, bro. You just bet like a 2021 Nissan Maxima with base level trim, bro. What's going on, bro? And I'm like, I'm obviously like expecting a snap fold because he can't have the nuts. There's no way he can have the nuts, bro. And so he's like thinking about it, and then 5 minutes pass, and 10 minutes pass, and I'm like over here like really starting to get concerned, right? And we actually exchanged some words at the table, but I'm not going to get into that. But
What were the words? What were the words? What happened? What words?
should I get into that? Should I get? All right.
I think you should get into that.
He like
You should.
he's like looking at me trying to get a read, right? And he's like, I can't tell if you're actually nervous or you're just faking it. Like, obviously I'm nervous. And I'm like, bro, how could I not be nervous, bro? I just bet like 40 G's. Like, this is like a third of my bankroll. Like, I could have the stone cold nuts, or I could have like completely nothing. And like,
That's a pretty good response.
I would be like, I would be shaking, bro. So like, I don't know what kind of read you're trying to get, but like, that's like basically what I said.
I think it's better to just admit that you're nervous.
Yeah, like, I don't know what kind of read you're trying to get, bro. I'm like, I'd be shaking if I had the nuts, bro. If I had the nuts. Yeah, so, 5 minutes pass, 10 minutes pass, and I'm, like, over here with, like, queen high, praying this guy doesn't just take a third of my bankroll. And then, like, everyone's, like, looking at him, because, like, no one's calling the clock on him, because they're all like, bro, it's like, take your time, bro. It's like a 40K decision. We get it, okay? It's like an insane hand, bro.
Like, times pot.
6.5 times pot, I think. It was like, yeah, it was more than 6x pot. Or like jam 6x pot, like 1,000 bigs in the middle, praying to the Lord that he doesn't take a third of my bankroll. So eventually, like 15 minutes pass, no one has called the clock on him, and he calls the clock on himself, and he's like, man, I just need something to push me along to make this decision, so I'm going to call the clock on myself. And the floor person comes over, and he starts counting down from a minute. And this is, like, really stressful for me, because I know, like, this is about, like, bro, I jumped out of planes. I've been through war. Like, this was, like, next level, bro. I'm like, I'm going to know if I win or lose 40K. Well, I'm, like, risking it to win, like, however much was in the pot. It was, like, 6K in the pot. I'm either going to lose 40K or I'm going to win 6K. And I'm about to know in the next, like, minute. And then he gets to 10 seconds. The floor person gets 10. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The hand is dead. And, like, the dealer, like, takes his cards, rakes them in the muck, pushes me the pot. I'm, like, in shambles over here. I'm like, ah! And at this point, like, the must-move game... The must-move game had, like, broken. They're like, dude, there's, like, a 40K pot in the main game. Like, let's check this out. Like, who cares about, like, our game? And like, so they were, like, starting to disperse. And, like, one of the last guys to leave the rail was like, bro, he definitely had it. Because there's no way he doesn't show if he made that bluff. And that's when I flipped over the queen 10 of spades. And everyone was like, whoa, whoa. Yeah, dude, that was, like, one of the coolest experiences I've had in poker. Because I was, like, very new to this, you know, I was only playing professionally for less than a year, and having this cool experience of, like, you know, owning the reg or whatever. But, I mean, like, he kind of owned me, because, like, he actually thought about it with a non-nutted hand. He's like, he literally said, he's like, I know you could just, like, be doing this with air. And I'm pretty sure, dude, if my memory serves, I think he actually called out my exact hand during during his tank. He's like, what is this, queen
What did he have? It seemed like he had, like, king 10 or something.
He had king 7 of spades. He told me afterwards. So he flopped top pair, backdoor flush draw, turned the flush draw, and then rivered 2 pair.
Oh, I see, okay.
Yeah, kind of a weird hand, but
the
6 of fucking
decided to check raise.
Yeah, like, yeah, right. Yeah, and obviously, like, at this point in my career, I'm super paranoid about everything, so I'm, like, autistically simming hands against fish. And I went home and, like, simmed this hand, like, it had to be, like, a very simple sim in Pio.
It doesn't, it doesn't sound that insane, to be honest. Like, it doesn't, like, if you're gonna jam all in a hand, it's not that crazy. Like,
yeah,
the machine does do things like this, by the way.
Dude,
but it doesn't...
Pio liked it. Pio liked the jam. Pio liked the 6x jam.
Pio liked it?
I was so
hyped. Pio says it's jam?
Vindicated once more, bro. And the craziest part of the story, so I see the guy who gave me the free roll. He had left at this point. I see him at the win the next day. I'm like, bro, I know you left, but I got all in with him. Can I have $20, please? And he's like, are you serious? And I'm like, yes. And he's like, "Here's $20." I'm like, "Thank you, bro."
He
I
needed to
appreciate
give
that.
the $20. Like that was like if he had to give the $20, that was definitely worth $20. Like that's never happened ever. It,
For
like,
real, dude.
I've never seen pretty much ever. I don't think this happens. Like I haven't seen it happen at all. I've seen some crazy shit, but I've never seen that. To be fair.
Yeah, I was
I've
super
seen
hyped about that hand. That's my favorite hand.
this
I've ever played.
guy. Actually, this guy Bagskjorven might do some plays like that. This Swedish player, he's a high stakes player. He was the one heads up player that ever actually beat me for a significant amount. Matter of fact,
wow.
the other I did probably like not really play people that I was very cautious against people that were obviously using GTO or whatever, using sims and stuff. So I'd be like really on top of my game and making sure that I wasn't like I would tend to take a lot of shots against people in the sense of trying to see what works and what doesn't. But against those GTO people, I would really make sure that I wasn't like disbalanced in any kind of way. And also their styles were really not that. They weren't the kind of styles that can tend to have big win rates. But Bagskjorven didn't play a GTO style. He would play like this weird style and have loads of overbets and do all this obnoxious shit. It was just me really hard. Somehow he had the anti-jungle formula, but props for running the bluff finally.
Yeah. Young Paint with the Bluff. I was super hyped about that. The story.
I would say it was priceless, but it wasn't. It was like 40K or whatever if you failed.
Dude, that was like a third of my bankroll, bro. The craziest part of the story, like that was literally all the money I had brought to Vegas. If I lost that, I would have had to fly home, bro. I would have had to leave town. I would have, like, left town in disgrace. Like, oh, I lost. No. But because I got the bluff through, and...
Did you tell him that? Did you tell him that?
No, I didn't tell him that at the time.
That's all my money if you call it. I was just leaving.
Bro, so I actually, I don't like to hit and run, especially live. I try to, like, if I win a big pot, like, stick around a little bit, don't make it so obvious. Stay for another, like, half hour at least. But this one, like, I played, like, 2 more orbits, bro, and I'm just, like, my mental state is just totally shot, bro. I gotta leave. I can't do this anymore, bro. I'm booking the 3K win, the 70 big blind win. It's mine. Yeah, so I get up, and as I'm walking out, the dude yells out to me, he's like, "Yo, dude, I just want you to know I really respect that. That was, like, really a sick move." And, like, dude, just like, hearing that as, like, a guy who's like, I'm trying to make it, I'm trying to prove to the world that I belong here at high stakes, and, like, hearing that from, like, an established professional, like, that actually meant a lot to me, and I really appreciated that.
That would have been a nice kickback if he did call you and was like, "But I really respect you." That would have been a great response. But that took balls, man.
All-time greatest call is like, I call while you were bluffing. That takes balls. Dude, best part of the story. I haven't even gotten to the best part of the story. It's kind of like the epilogue, but it's the best part of the story for me, because this is where I make all the money. So I go on to, like, I play my first ever live tournament in Vegas, and it's at the Win. And I min cash it. I'm in the money, I punt off the stack, normal paint stuff. But then I get a call from my buddy. He's like, "Yo, bro, there's this super soft 1K going down at the Venetian. You gotta get over here." I'm like, "I don't know, bro. I just busted out of the 1K at the Win. I don't know, man. I'm not really in the mood." But, like, as I'm walking out of the Win with, like, my min cash, my, like, $2,500 or something, I'm like, nah, I should play the Venetian. I should play the Venetian tournament. And so I get cash for my chips. I run over to the Venetian, and late reg is about to close. And there's like 5 minutes left in late reg. And I get there, and they're like, "You need a Grazie card, and you have the $1,000, but you need a Grazie card." And I'm like, because this is my first time in Vegas, I don't have a Grazie card, bro. I don't have the Venetian loyalty card. So I'm like, I go to the director, and I'm like, "Bro, I just ran here from the Win. Can you get me into this tournament? I don't have a Grazie card." He's like, "No worries, son. I'll hold up registration. You go get yourself a Grazie card. Come back first thing. We'll get you in." And so I come back, like 15 minutes later. Late reg is over at like It's like 10 minutes past late reg. And I get over here with the Grazie card, like, here's my $1,000, and the cage is like, yo, registration is closed, and the manager is like, no issue. This guy, he's with me. And the cage is like, all right, you're in. First hand, literally first hand, I look down at Queen 7 of Hearts. Button opens. I'm on like 16 bigs. I'm like, this guy's going to be pretty loose opening the button. I'm all in. First hand, all in. Snap calls pocket jacks. Flop comes out. 7-7-5. Double first hand. And I go on to win my second ever live tournament.
Oh,
and this
wow.
was late. This was later that week. Like that, the Bluff was on like Monday. The tournament was on like Friday. And I win like 120K, like more than doubling my bankroll. And I'm like, bro, if he had called the Bluff, I would have had to leave town. Instead, I play the win, bust out of the win, play the Venetian, win the Venetian for like 120K. I go home. I'm like on top of the world. Bro, it was... My first year of playing was like a movie, bro. It was like so insane. And oh man, it was like honestly a dream come true. Poker's awesome, man. Like that shit can happen. It's insane, you know? So much fun.
That is kind of the dream, I have to say, in many ways. I think most people don't dream or don't have it in them to run that animal of a bluff. I don't know if I would have done that one, to be honest, with a third of my roll. I mean, I would do 6x putt or whatever. I have done that, but a third of my roll.
Yeah. Yeah, it's, I mean, dude, honestly, like, today, I don't even know if I'd run that today.
For some reason, I imagine you as a heads-up specialist, or did you switch at some point, or were you just always, like, a bit of a mixed type?
Always a bit of a mixed type.
Oh, okay.
If I had to describe myself, I would describe myself as a heads-up specialist, because a lot of that was, train up to the heads-up challenge, which you know about. I trained extremely hard for that, and I got incredibly good at heads up for that. Yeah, dude. I was already like extremely good at heads up, and then this guy comes out, and he's like talking shit, and I'm like, you know what, bro? Let's go down. But I was like, the betting lines surrounding my second heads up challenge were very anti-paint. They were very pro brown. So I was getting like, a 3-1 or a 4-1 dog in a lot of these lines. I was getting gifted like 4 big blinds per 100 in the lines, and I'm like, I used to be a believer in the efficient market hypothesis. So I'm like, okay.
What do you mean? What do you mean by that?
So I had a blog where I documented my successes, and like I posted graphs, and you know, I assumed it was common knowledge that I was a very good player, and I had a very high win rate. I even posted my heads up graph where I was like winning at like, do I want to talk about this? Yeah. I was winning at like above 10 big blinds per 100, and I posted that graph on my blog. Yeah. Against like, and I prefaced it by saying like, yeah, this is mostly against regs, you know. I may have run good. It wasn't a super big sample, it was like 40K hands, but I'm like, yeah, it's mostly against regs. I'm winning at like, you know, 10 big blinds per 100. I'm proud of what I've done, and I'm a very good heads up player. And then these people come along, and they're shit talking me, and they're like offering me betting lines that imply on like a 20% or a 25% chance to win this heads up challenge. That's 25,000 hands, and I'm like, do these people know something I don't? So I like the heads up challenge, like I was like very paranoid about it, and so I ended up prepping super hard because like I'm like, okay, there's no way like either like I'm getting tricked or these people know something I don't, because I've already shown that I'm like a very competent heads up player. And the betting line is still, like, heavily swinging against me. And he played higher stakes than me, granted. But, like, I thought, like, okay, I mean, it's heads up. Like, anyone can win. Cards come out, you know?
Sure. What does prepping very hard mean?
So I was already very much in the GTO Wizard streets. And the Pio streets. I had built a bunch of my own sims. Dude, I have like a library of Pio sims on my computer for heads up. And it's a lot easier to do that. I also have that to an extent for 6max. And I always liked the Pio sims a bit more than GTO Wizard for studying purposes. Like I got really good off of Pio because the sims are very manipulatable. You can like add in different bet sizes. You can see like, okay, how does the strategy react to this bet size? You can no lock it, all this different stuff. GTO Wizard is sort of implementing a lot of new features, and respect to them. But I came up using Pio. So I was like,
I actually did too, but I've been using GTO Wizard lately. But Pio is quite good.
Yeah, me too.
Also.
Yeah, I've been using. I used both during the Heads Up Challenge. I use GTO Wizard generally to do my after session reviews. Just really quick, just run through the hands. So like if I have a tablet here, where I would essentially like if there was something that came up during the Heads Up Challenge, I would like write it down. Like okay, King 10 of Spades hand.
I do something like afterwards. That too, by the way. Yeah, I do it on my phone usually, or I do it on Notepad or something like that. And by the way, you remind me a bit of the Dur challenge. I had a kind of similar thing happen with the Dur challenge. I played Tom much before the challenge, and I beat him out of like $1 million at 100, 200, 200, 400. And he like comes along to me and he's like, "Since you always beat me, why don't you take the Dur challenge?" I'm just like, "What the f-? Now you want to? I beat you out of $1 million. Now you want to offer me 3-1 on the next 50,000 hands? Like what's going on right now?"
That's crazy. Yeah, that was like. So, yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
What happened next with your story?
Yes, my side of the story is all in 2+2. So is his side of the story. So if you want both sides, check out 2+2. There's like a bunch of threads. The one I posted is like an 8-page thread where people are arguing over whether or not I'm a good person, which, you know, you can come to your own conclusions. But, yeah, I prepped extremely hard. Dude, I was pulling out all the stops. I sort of like, so he was like sort of known as like a serial data miner. So I sort of figured he'd probably data mine all my hands off PA stars. So I'm like, all right, we need to like...
a data miner himself?
Yes! Dude!
What the f***? And he was like mad that you data mined?
Yes. Well, the crux of the argument against me is that whole cards up data is significantly more impactful than data mined hands with whole cards down.
That's probably true. I mean, in like it depending, there's probably like a way in which to calibrate that. You know what I mean? Like, there's probably like maybe like it's 5 times more valuable, but if you have 5 times the database or whatever, or a certain amount of the database, like it doesn't really matter because you get the showdown hands at some point.
Yeah, we genuinely didn't
maybe
put that much stock into the data because first off, it was 2 years old. Secondly, there was prep time where both parties knew about the challenge, and I was significantly changing my strategy, so I sort of assumed it would be similar for him. Thirdly, we didn't recognize any of the usernames in the database, so it's like if someone like calls down with third pair against an unknown username, it's like could just be a fish, you know, it could just be like a whale. Like it's very difficult to draw hard and fast conclusions about someone's playstyle, especially with how fluid the game of Heads Up is. I'm gonna give away some of my proprietary information because I honestly, man, I don't care. I don't actually play that much Heads Up anymore. I still will occasionally, but the really cool thing, I don't. Heads Up kind of stresses me out though, low key. Like between you and me, low key, Heads Up kind of stresses me out. Yeah. So the strategy I came up with and perfected for this challenge, we had an idea that Brandon would probably come with like the 2.5 big blind open size, and he was probably 3-betting between like 9 and 11 big blinds. So he had like very specific sizes pre-flop, like everyone does. Like I play people, and almost always they open to 2.5. Sometimes you get the guy who opens to 2.
That's what GTO is.
Yeah, but in terms of like understanding the optimal strategy is going to change whether it's like 2.5 or 2.2 or 2x. Because there's a dude I play against. If he opens to 2x, you got to continue significantly wider. 3-bet ranges change.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know how much EV it costs to change that number to, you know, the opening number to 2.5 to 2.2 or whatever it is. Maybe it doesn't change anything or virtually nothing. Like,
yeah, it does.
Why not? Yeah.
Yeah, it obviously, like, widens the range a little bit, but it's not a big deal. But the thing that we did was we decided to split 3-bet sizes and split open sizes. We did a triple split open, which took, like, 2 weeks for me to memorize, bro. It took me like 2 weeks for me to memorize both strategies. I literally like memorized the frequencies of these hands, and I can actually show you how. I'm like very proud of this, so I'm like okay sharing with the pod. basically, I would assign a 2-digit number. Each number represented the boundary of a split. Um, so if a hand corresponded to a number like 2-7, so Ace Jack offsuit was a 2-7, then 20% of the time I would open to 2.7 big blinds. 50% of the time I would open to 2.1, and then 30% of the time I would limp it. And so it's basically a way to compact the strategy in as little information as possible. So I would assign a 2-digit number to each one. For example, Ace Queen offsuit was a 3-9. So 30% of the time I open to 2.7, and then 60% of the time I open at 2.1, and then 10% of the time I limp it. And
sounds like a very complicated strategy, to be honest.
Yes, that's the point. Because I had Thomas on the back end, and he was running, like, within the week. Because, look, the old hands were useless for this, because he had never faced a strategy like this before. But within the week, we had node-locked sims, basically locking in his frequencies, his response frequencies to all our different actions. Now, a split-size strategy requires a very specific response, which is basically unknowable to my opponent here because he's never faced anything like it. He doesn't have the sims, which took like weeks to run. He doesn't have he's never faced this before. He doesn't have any experience with the split-size strategy. So it's like, okay, he's supposed to 3-bet 17% of the time against the 2.7x open, but in reality he's only 3-betting like 13% of the time. And so we node lock that into Munker Solver. I'm like, by the end of the weekend, Thomas is giving me new sims that I'm like looking at, and I couldn't memorize them with the same depth as I memorized the initial GTO sims that we ran, but like we were like, dude, there was a point in the challenge when I was like crushing him pre-flop by like 5 big blinds per 100 because it's so hard to develop perfect frequencies. And I understand that like the complexity of the strategy seems like a bit overkill. Like, do you really need 2.7 and 2.1 and limp? At equilibrium, I think it was like 2 big blinds per 100 superior to GTO strategy. And that also somewhat depends on perfect post-flop play. But he doesn't have the sims, so now I have like the pre-flop ranges for 2.7. I can plug them into Pio. I have like a library of like Pio sims when I open a 2.7, and I can compare and contrast that. Like, okay, so I get ace 10-5 after I open a 2.7 and he calls. How does that differ from when I open a 2.1 and I get ace 10-5 after he calls? And I can compare and contrast the two sims. And so like I have like post-flop data on how I should be changing my strategy in these different open sizes, and we have like the exact frequencies that we need to be hitting, and we know the exact frequencies Brandon's supposed to be hitting, and he's obviously not hitting them because he doesn't have the sims. And then we like node lock that into like the pre-flop solver, and then we start like just absolutely like destroying this man. And after the session is over, I'm like, yo, Thomas, because I'm sending all my hands to Thomas, and I'm like, yo, Thomas, can you verify that? Because my intuition is telling me that, like, okay, it feels like I'm always getting check raised here, or it feels like he's just always blasting that third barrel. So after the session was over, I'd be like, yo, Thomas, can you double check if he's like always blasting river in this spot? And so Thomas would come back the next day like, yeah, this is an exploit, you can do this, this, and this, or no, your intuition is actually off here, he's actually playing GTO. And we could like, bro, we had like a whole system, bro. Like, we were dialed in. I took this heads up challenge very seriously, bro.
This sounds like an immense amount of effort. I mean, it sounds like a full-time job, actually. Like, maybe even more. It sounds like something I would take like. I just like you would have to have like really a remote a desk or some kind of thing that's just powerful thing that will run all these sims like relatively fast, and you'd have to know them really well unless you're. I mean, you can't look at the charts. You're not.
Yeah, Thomas. I did not look at the charts. I did not look at pre-flop charts. I literally memorized the pre-flop frequencies. We did pretty well. I think I won at like 20 big blinds per 100 or something. But then like the whole controversy and everyone blamed it on the database, which was like not even that useful. Like people blaming it on the database, they don't understand how fluid heads up is. Like why? Like I'm constantly changing. Even during the course of the heads up challenge, I'm constantly changing. I'm constantly adjusting my reads. You know, it should not be useful if you're a good player, because it's like, okay, this dude's way over bluffing the river in this spot. Like, how long is that read going to be useful? probably not the month and a half that we played heads up for. You know, it's like maybe
That is true. That is
a
true.
week.
I mean, his I mean, you took it a little bit further, in my opinion, with like seeing his whole cards, but I don't think that much further, to be honest. And I mean, it is hypocritical for him to be a data miner, and then like you do something that's a little bit, like further against the
Bro,
line. It's like, whoa, 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 wait a second here. I mean, that's complete bullshit, to be honest.
dude, dude,
Especially when your whole approach doesn't really have that much to do with that. It sounds
I
like.
agree.
I mean,
On top of that,
I
real quick, there was a. I asked him about data mining in like the arbitration chat with Josh, who was our initial arbiter, and I'm like, "Yo, dude, what do you think about data mining?" And he specifically stated, "I don't care about this." And then like I go back through the chat looking for that message, and he deleted it out of the chat after he like
okay,
brought the
that's
allegations
like I
against
would
me.
say, in my opinion, that's scummier than whatever you did for sure. Like
Bro, and
that's like
uh,
bad in my opinion.
right,
That's like
dude.
clearly he's like angling.
And on top
Uh,
of that, I literally had a screenshot of the message because I had screenshot it and sent it to Thomas. I'm like, "Yo, Thomas, what do you think about this? He doesn't see any issue with data mining."
did you like lose something from a response to that, other than a bunch of people calling you a scumbag, or like, did I mean,
Uh,
I do think data mining is kind of sketch. But I don't view like all these transgressions of these lines to be the same. I mean, like a lot of people basically don't. It's been a bit of a tendency within the poker community to view any kind of transgression. It's the Overton window has been shifting a lot to view any, if they call like data mining cheating, it's like kind of a big stretch, and it's like they're trying to lump it in with things that are really bad, such as like super using or whatever it is, which is whereas this is like more in the gray zone.
I
Um,
agree.
but uh, but did you actually lose money on this?
Yeah, I was I was the only person who lost money in this challenge, my friend. Thomas made money.
What do you mean?
He didn't refund my coaching. I paid like 16K to Thomas, I think, 15 or 16K to Thomas. So I lost. So Thomas made money. Brandon, the ARB panel. I asked the ARB panel because I'm kind of a dumbass. But I was in like a very bad mental state. Basically, the entire internet was attacking me, or that's what it felt like. The entire like the community I was in, everyone was against me. Anyone who tried to stick up for me got like bullied, which is like pretty. But yeah, so it basically felt like the
It's
whole
kind of
world was
weird.
against me.
It's
Um,
because you used his hands that you could see his whole cards in, but he also could see other hands of yours, where sometimes
yes.
he sees your whole cards.
Yeah, I can't help but feel as though
But
I've been held to a double standard. Like me and Brandon were held to two different, completely different standards during
I
this
mean, it's
process.
it's not perfectly a double standard, but it's pretty close. I mean, this is like wild hypocrisy to just
Yeah.
like say, okay, this line just was slightly transgressed, and
Hmm.
and now all of a sudden it's terrible. Like,
Yeah,
I
but
don't think
yeah,
that's the way
in
it
the
works.
aftermath, like it felt like everyone was coming after me, and there are still a lot of people who really don't like me. Which, like, everyone's entitled to their opinion. Fair enough, man. If you don't like me, cool. But yeah, I asked the arbitration panel if I should pay back the side bet. And at this point, I still felt as though the arbitration panel, I disagreed with their decision, but I still felt like they were probably acting in good faith. And then, like, later along the line, it turned out that, like, a bunch of the arbiters had prior relationships with Brandon that they did not disclose to me. And yes, I green lighted all of the arbs. So, yes, me and Brandon both agreed on all the arbitrators in the panel. But I was without certain information. Like one of the arbs was like a prior coaching student of Brandon, and others had like long lasting friendships with him, and I was like, really? Was this like entirely above board? I don't know.
I mean, I have a bit of a controversial history myself, although I personally think that the majority of these people, usually it's people that, well, I think that the majority of the people are not really looking at these situations very well, in the sense of like, um, I mean, it's pretty easy to like, it's kind of important to push your edge as much as you can to the point of where it doesn't break the rules. And it seems like if you do that, you're eventually going to cross that line, um, because it's possible to make a bad judgment in that way. Uh, it's really important to not cross that line if you know that it's a crossed line. However, um, but it's like in a competitive game, you have to do everything that you can. And I mean, not to mention, this would be more of an argument against the. It would seem like it's not really even a guard. Like you can kind of make the argument that it's not really cheating, because it's more of an argument against like the good faith of the way that you're doing things. But if you have like this kind of a competitive advantage, like unless it's like against the terms of the rules of service.
I'm not taking shots at their character. I think they were probably subconsciously extremely biased, but I'm not saying they're bad people. I still respect many of the members of the panel. So I asked them if I should pay Brandon back the side bet after the initial arbitration decision came back because honestly, I felt really bad about how things had gone. And when everyone is telling you like you're a horrible person and a cheater, it's almost hard to like feel like, no, everyone's wrong except me. I know the real story.
It is dangerous to think that. I do agree.
Yeah, it's
It's a bit
difficult
weird
to.
of a spot.
If what I did is actually that bad, then I should try to make this right as much as possible. Because initially it didn't cross my mind that we were doing anything wrong when like Thomas pulled up the database and we started going through it. So I asked them like, okay, should I pay back the side bet? And they're like, yes, absolutely. Give Brandon back the $10,000. And so I lost the side bet to Brandon. Brandon made the 10K.
You at least could keep the actual money that you won from him, right?
No, I gave back.
No,
one during
you
the
gave
challenge
all
was
that back.
yeah.
That's not right. That based on the information you've told me, there's no way that's correct. Just because you had some guy's hand histories doesn't mean you should give all of it back. Like you could argue like you should give some of it back. I agree. I can agree with that. I just can't agree with like no, you should give all of it back. No, that's complete bullshit. Like how can he be a data? Like the biggest hypocrisy is he's a fucking data miner himself. Like who knows how much shit he's data mined? Imagine him giving all the money he won back on poker sites back because he fucking data mined a bunch of people. Like it'd be like that would be the equivalent of what you just did. From what I've heard so far.
I will say. So the argument from the other side, because I've been getting my side of the argument because I'm me.
Yeah, of course, it is important to get the other side too.
Yeah. So the main point is during the arbitration process, when arbitration asked if I had access to the database, I said no. I don't know anything about the database because I figured like obviously Brandon doesn't have any proof that I have his database. So I'm like, okay, if you want to make the argument, you can prove it. And there's like the whole saga on 2+2. I don't want to get into it too much, but essentially, I lied about that, and I deeply regret that. And that's quite bad.
That looks terrible. That looks so bad, dude.
And arbitration
that looks
is
really
like
bad.
arbitration is like, oh, you lied about this. We can't trust you for anything, and so we're going to make you refund all of the money to Brandon. So that's the other side. Yeah,
that's a scary thing, for sure. Definitely lying can be. Because sometimes the lying is a lot more scary than the actual bad thing.
Yeah, and obviously, like there was a lot of like pressure from my team to sort of act in a certain way, and yeah, I'm not happy with how I handled it, and that's like the main thing. Like I handled arbitration very poorly, and I fully acknowledge that. And I even find it understandable to an extent why arbitration would be very harsh with me. However, I still feel as though the punishment does not fit the crime. That's my side of the story.
My guess is it doesn't, but I don't really know. It doesn't. I don't know what else he did, but
essentially, like the other side is like,
extreme.
Well, you lied about this, so you're not a trustworthy source, and so nothing you say has any merit or any relevance.
Well, and that's extreme too. No, that's not true.
I think
almost everyone's lied at some point. So is everyone no longer trustworthy for anything? No, that's not how the world works. So I mean, that's also extreme. I don't. It sounds like the arbitration was pretty extreme.
Yeah, I felt quite bad about this. Not just because of the arbitration, and not just because of the significant community backlash, which is like partially understandable. I think it probably went a bit further. than it should have. But at the same time, I also violated my own moral code, my own code of ethics, which is a far heavier burden to pay than any amount of money or social backlash, in my humble opinion. I do care about being a good person, and I felt
clearly,
as though I did not live up to my own standards regarding this. So that's like it wasn't just like having to pay back over 100K. It wasn't just like the social backlash, but it was knowing that I had acted in a way that is contrary to my own beliefs.
Anyway, yeah, let's wrap it up on that note. I hope you make it back. You get it back somehow. It sounds like
we got it back.
Downswing of sorts.
We got it back.
Nice. We got it back. All right, we're back on the attack.
Up and up.
All right. Hopefully more animal bluffs that are profitable at least. Yeah, thank you so much for your time, Cole. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and looking forward to your success.